Guys, it's Retro Rose here. Welcome back to another Mushy Monday where we play cute, cozy games. And today we're continuing the series Our Life Now and Forever. Again, I am putting Our Life Beginning and Always on pause currently because the devs have come up with some updates for Now and Forever, which means changes to the UI, the tutorials. They've added an extra step and moments for step 1 and step 2. So I am playing this over again for you guys so we can get that full experience. And if you're new here, again, my name is Retro Rose. I play a variety of games from indie horror, cute and cozy, visual novel, you name it. And I hope after this video you become a part of my Rose Garden so I can bring you guys more content. The more you guys view my content, the more it helps my family, and it just helps me continue to bring you guys the beautiful content, which is the games that I play. But without further ado, let's pick up right where we left off. Oh, that's right. We were picking up Tamarack. Ooh. I'm ready. The quickness of all that was too much, and Autumn needed a second to catch up with it. But when he did, he chuckled. Perfect. And by the way, Tamarack, I told Rose already, but people don't always call me Quay, especially at school. I've got the nickname. It's Autumn. Oh, okay. I like Quay. You do? Thanks. Autumn lazily settled his hands on his hips and his eyes moved away from side to side, even though there was nothing special to see that way. Yes, we've actually got to go to class. Yeah. She pumped her fist up and down in the air in a pattern that matched the pace of her yes. Yeah, you cheered alongside Tamarack. Yeah. It was a cheering loop between you and her. All clustered together, you, Quay, and Tamarack tampered off the white wooden porch. The full-set cul-de-sac, kids hit the road again. The trip was almost opposite of last time. The sun was coming up instead of going down, and you were leaving the neighborhood instead of going back to it. But that wasn't what really stood out to you. It was a little bit amazing you already could compare it to the last time. And you could guess that this journey with them wasn't going to be the actual last time it ever happened. It just become the last time it happened before the new next time. The first part of the school trip wasn't hard. There was only one way out of your neighborhood unless someone hiked out into wherever the woods went. That would be cool. Maybe you'd be able to do that someday. Your actual path forward had you brush past the forest fork that originally led you to beating Autumn and Tamarack. But you weren't struck with the same limits as before. This morning you moved right on by without even stopping to check what might be hidden away back there. Now you traveled further. The woods crowded in closer and closer around the one road that led out, until suddenly structures began to appear in between bushes. The thickening overhang of leaves pulled apart to show the sky, and the world unfolded ahead of you. Sunshine climbed mountains to just barely tickle your cheeks, while the stars still clustered against your back. You were right in the center of a windy mountain path. Oh, it's like moving. It flowed over the uneven ground, blanketing every small bump and bend like a black river. Along the street hung wooden poles, rose into the sky in a row that rivaled the trees. Stretching phone lines and reaching branches wove the whole town together. Even though Golden Grove was a lived-in place with man-made things, the vast wilderness was as much a neighbor to the residents as their real people neighbors. Tamarack trampled over the grass, swishing her arms in full-length swings in front of her. She didn't get anywhere near tarmac. Autumn's stride was a lot breezier. He took the spot in the line closest to the road and didn't even check for cars. His eyes were aimed at the now viewable sky. He ended up somewhere in between them. If Tamarack was a swoosh and Autumn was a breeze, you were a whirlwind. You rushed about, twisting the angle of your head and taking in every new thing that surrounded you. All the air went out the window when Autumn started moving his hands around even more than Tamarack. He frantically struck his fingers in and out of each of his pockets while poking his tongue out of the corner of his mouth. You and Tamarack just watched as he tugged at his jacket pant while walking. The two of you probably shared the same exact thought. He was looking for his notebook or paper or something. And it was a paper. But it wasn't the special tan pages. The thing Autumn grabbed was a thick folded packet of white printer paper that was covered all over in tiny ink words. You could instantly tell what it was. Many papers stapled together with this many little words on them only ever came from one place, school. Autumn held it close to his face, and he had his nose completely in it, what was basically a book. But for some reason, he started to talk to you and Tamarack. Which room did you get? For a second, Autumn peeked over the pages to look at both of you. Who's your teacher? Tamarack thought hard, but she didn't find the answer in her head. She squished her hand under the flap of her bag without unbuckling it, and she had to find her own papers. You quietly moved to check your school stuff too. Your mom put a big packet of papers in your backpack. You just needed to find it. While you rooted around for that, Autumn shouted, "Here it is. Room 24, Miss Murray." Autumn used his thumbs to bend the paper down. They stopped hiding his face, and you could see he was stunned. Tamarack waved her packet in the air in a crinkly flurry. "Me too. Great. What about you, Rose? Is Miss Murray your teacher?" You yanked the papers from your bag and speed read the whole chunk of long words that explained the school's procedures and student enrollment. Lucky for you, the part you needed to know was smack dab on the front. "Miss Murray, room 24. We are all in the same class. Your mom had given you the papers. Autumn probably got his from his mom and dad, and Tamarack from her Omi and Opa. Despite being kind of different, the papers were all the same. A smirk settled on its regular spot on Autumn's face, all according to plan if he somehow could have planned it. Welcome, we're roommates. He didn't need the packet for anything else, so he stuffed it in his pants pocket with a shrug of one shoulder. There's only 3 5th grade classes we could have been in. When Autumn made sure it was deep enough to not just fall out, he brought both his arms into an even bigger shrug and chuckled too. But Miss Murray, I almost made it without her being my teacher. It was close. Tamarack peered into his face with wide eyes, leaning over so much that you almost walked into her. She didn't have to say what her question was with words. Autumn got it. Don't worry, she's nice. She's the best teacher for you two. Autumn made a very serious and reassuring okay sign with his fingers, but in an instant it snapped into a pointing gesture. And you're probably going to be shocked, but Miss Murray isn't just a teacher, she's a mom. She has kids that are just her kids, not students. Wow. It'd be kind of fun to have a parent who is a teacher. No. But now I know where we're really going. I can bring us right to the door. The extra burst of confidence got Autumn to take a few long strides ahead of you and Tamarack, keeping his chin high. Tamarack bounced across the grass, kicking her knees high to catch up. She didn't let him keep the lead he took. You happily went with them. You ran forward to get back to the middle of the road. You were greeted with grins from both of them. Your steps came back into a steady rhythm between the three of you. Yeah, why didn't you want Ms. Murray for your teacher? Because she knows me. Not like how all the teachers have met me because I go to that school. His dark brown eyes stretched open as wide as they could. His whispered words were pulled out just as long. It was a deep secret confession. She really knows me outside of school and everything. The seriousness of it only lasted a second. Autumn laughed at it instead. It's going to be tough to get away with stuff now. Oh, so you just want to get away with stuff. Instead, Tamarack put on a shocked expression Autumn had just put away. Wow, I've never seen a teacher outside of school. When do they leave? Pretty late usually, but they do go home and do errands and stuff. I've experienced it. Oh, that was interesting. You learned something new. The longer the walk went on, the more Tamarack's gaze was pulled to the forest edge along the road instead of what was right in front of her. Her steps drifted unevenly. You couldn't blame her. You had done the same during the trip a few times. But you weren't the only one who noticed her focus. Hey, so it's kind of funny how both of you like the woods that much. It's the only nice place I've seen here so far. She said it in the plainest way possible, and the words still make her gasp hard enough to cough. His face is so funny here. Have you been places other than the forest? Yeah, lots. They're not good. I can't believe it. Hey, both places can be good, they're just different. Yeah. Autumn shook off the shock Tamrek's statement hit him with. He turned his cheeks to the front as he rolled his shoulders. He was winding up for a comeback. I guess I can give you one thing. There is a pretty special kind of fun that in all my years of living here you can only ever have out in these very woods, nowhere else. Really, what is it? He casted a reel and Tamarack was hooked on it. She instantly became invested in whatever Mr. Autumn had lined up. I'm not gonna tell you. What? Tamarack shrieked in a tone so high it scared away a bird who was minding its own business in the tree above. It was hook, line, and sinker. The beat of his wings fluttered through the air, matched Autumn's giggles. He brought a hand to his chin and leveled a mischievous glance at Tamarack. One day you'll understand. Probably. Watch it be nothing. And that was really it. He closed up his lips, folded his arms, and settled in to not explaining for the rest of the walk. Tamarack couldn't accept that, or couldn't get the hint. She pestered him with the passion in her words getting stronger every time she repeated them. Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me the thing. Tell me the special thing. Autumn, tell me the special thing. That's not fair, Autumn. He didn't care. The conversation of you and Tamarack attempting to squeeze Quay for info and the snickers that escaped from Quay continued while you headed towards your goal. Down the road some more, over a crosswalk past the main street, taking a turn at the corner. That was when the widest building you've seen so far came into view. There had been taller ones because the only one had 2 floors, but there was a lot of those floors. North Acres Elementary School. The name made sense. You wondered exactly how many acres it was. Dozens of other kids were pouring out from a few different paths and mixing together under the front acres above the giant door. You tried to stand up straight, wanting to do things right. Then you went through the door, sticking even closer by your group than on the walk there. Inside was a long hall of different doors and a staircase on the side. It was a shiny and dull, like it had been cleaned so hard for so long. It made everything even more worn down than normal. A poster board with a bunch of paper sheets stacked on a line on the walls. Nobody even looked at them. The message they had might have never been read. The floors had checkered tile patterns. Some of the kids around made sure to only walk on one color to avoid the other. I used to do that in school, especially like my first day when I was little. And it was loud. There was too much sound from the crowds for the hall to hold. It echoed around, which made it even louder. This place was your school now. Quay tapped your shoulder and pointed with his other hand. You figured that was his way to say you had to keep going without having to yell so you could hear. The 3 of you pressed past the other students, making sure you didn't get separated. Step by step, you climbed upward and forward. Autumn waved a hand towards the right door when you reached the top. You arrived for the first day of class right on time. The little bit of cold you brought inside the school on the tip of your nose and over your cheeks had finally drifted off of your face. It was nice and warm when you went into the room. Your brand new class, 5th grade room number 24, smelled like people hard at work. Cut construction paper, crayons, glue, anything could be made with that. There was tons of leaves stuck to different colored walls, climbing around the windows, hanging from shelves, and sneaking out from behind boards where some of those things could be made. Kids sat together in close groups. The desks were pushed up to make bigger tables. There was just one chair by itself, right in the front or the back, if the way in was the front door. Tamarack took in a loud breath of waxy air. Wow, I thought it was going to be ugly. I love her for that. Me too, but it's so cool. Yeah. Autumn shrugged his backpack off to the floor. When it hit the ground, a puff of air came out and not totally zipped up top. Nothing in place caught his eye in a good way or a bad one. It was like nothing around him existed. But he just watched you and Tamarack look, and he chuckled at the faces you both made. This class looks the same for every room, even for in every grade every year. Oh, it wasn't that he couldn't see what you did. It was that he'd already seen it 110 times or more. Quay knew school as well as he knew everything else in Golden Grove. He kicked his backpack behind him to be up against the wall, never glanced down. There was already a bunch of other bags there. One sat one by one along the far side of the room. They were almost completely hidden under a row of hooks that had coats and jackets and stuff cluttered over them in stacked piles. There weren't enough holders for all the layers people brought. You're pretty lucky. This is your first time here, but you're only going to have to do it once. You're going to graduate and go to a different school next year. There will be new kids there then. He talked while he pulled his arms out of his jacket. You'd always seen him wear so far. He tossed it on top of a round lump of other coats with the hook somewhere below it all. Tamarack waited, watched, and then tugged at the end of her scarf to undo the knot it was wrapped in. She talked too. I told you this place was weird and never changed. That made Quay huffed or puffed at her, and the sound was almost exactly like the noise his backpack made a minute ago. School is different than an entire town, Tamarack. Tamarack didn't say another word against that. She just got on her tiptoes and slinged her untied scarf over Quay's jacket, building a mountain of stuff on one little hook even higher. Quay shoved his bandana deep into one of his pockets and lifted his other shoulder. You're right. That class is always the same. Seeing Autumn without his fluffy jacket felt like seeing a lion without its mane. He folded his arms high across his chest and gazed upon what you were starting to get was his kingdom. He had all the pride of a lion, even without the jacket. Quay acted like that was it for getting ready. He hadn't taken his gloves off. Was he going to wear those to class? Tamarack held tight to the strap of her bag. It for sure wasn't going with the rest of the packs. That meant she was definitely already done with the putting your stuff away part of getting to school. Tamarack overall were the most over clothes she had once the scarf was off. No coat, only a cool poncho or anything. Overalls were kind of short too. They didn't cover her whole legs. Her ankles had long socks and yellow rubber boots to keep them warm, but you had to wonder if she didn't feel cold the same way most people did. You took off your sweater too. Not having your sweater on made you feel different. You weren't coming or going anywhere anymore. You were really staying there in place for a lot of hours. But all you could do was find a hook aisle to leave it behind on till later. Good morning and welcome, students. You glanced over your shoulder. In the open doorway was another new person for you to have known. Her braids did match a few of the kids there, but she wasn't going to be in the desks with them. She was twice as tall as everyone else in the room. That had to be the teacher, Miss Murray. Her soft brown eyes looked down over you and your neighbors while he tapped a finger against her freckled face. The pattern on her skin was almost like stars if the sky was light at night and the stars were the dark part. Her rosy pink lips parted into a smile and she inclined her chin towards Autumn. Nice to see you here, Mr. Quinlan. This will be a good year. Yeah. Autumn stretched the word out so far as it could go, and at this time, he opened his arms wide. He turned his head away too. He had the kind of tone your ma would have when she had old co-workers over and they'd ask if they could set her up on a blind date. Squealing cheerful and not real. He was trying to be nice, but it wasn't trying that hard. Though when his eyes were rolling away, his gaze passed over you and got stuck there. A sly grin tugged the corners of his mouth as the sound of his voice went from off-key to lullaby. Maybe. Miss Murray pencil pointed eyebrows lifted. She blinked one time and then her own smile grew. It was shared with you and Tamarack next. Hello, I'm your teacher, Miss Murray. I'm right to say that you're Tamarack, Bayamon, and Rose Smith. Yes. Nice to meet you, Miss Murray. Tamarack bopped her hand in the air and twisted in place and swung her back so that it hung behind her. I am Tamarack. That's so great. Miss Murray spoke sweetly in a way that was just nice. It wasn't surprised or relieved to find out the answer. She probably didn't need to ask to know who you were. Teachers knew a lot. If you'd be so kind, would you mind coming over to my desk? Over there in the far corner. I'd like to talk to you two before class begins. Okay. Tamarack finally lowered her hand down to her sides. She still bumped her bag around by pushing it up and down with her butt. It clattered loudly, and Miss Murray pretended not to hear. He took a step closer, curious. Thank you both. She gestured lightly with her hand for you to come and left the doorway. Autumn turned his head to follow the teacher. More and more, his dark hair eclipsed your view of the rest of him as she walked away. When you lost sight of his face, there had been a frown on him. After she was gone, he swung back towards you and Tamarack. Autumn was smirking then. Good luck out there. He tipped over on one foot and bent his body way down. His other leg kicked into the air, and he could balance better than a flamingo. Autumn slipped a hand under his jacket on the hook and also under Tamarack's scarf, which was still on top of it, and dug around in the fabric. He didn't come out empty-handed. He had gotten a hold of his favorite notebook and pencil. Autumn slowly lifted his chest up and brought his one hovered foot down to earth again. That whole thing was graceful, but he followed it wildly, waving his notebook goodbye at you. And a paper fell out when he did it. Ah! Tamarack squealed, trying to talk too fast, so none of it was real words. She reached her arm to Quay graspingly, like she could pick him up and plant him back where he had dropped the thing. That didn't work either. He stepped away on light feet, carefree, and joined up with one of the groups at the desk. They all raised their heads and waved when he arrived. He was gone, and the teacher was waiting. Tamarack squinted her dark red eyes tightly. She directed her gaze towards you because it wasn't like anyone else in the room could understand her. You gave her a look back. You snickered. This is gonna be a long, however long it is. He picked up the paper and peeked what it said. He made a little beeline to the tan paper on the dark blue carpet and snatched it off the ground before someone could step on it, or it could be blown away and get lost in the middle of the forest. Before putting it in pocket, you read over the top and flipped it over to see the back. It was a list of food and other things. Maybe he was trying to remember stuff to get when he went to the store with his parents. You tucked it away in your pocket. That was taken care of. Tamarack pretended to be a jack in the box like she did yesterday. This time it was by bending on her knees before bouncing straight. She fluffed. Her fluffy lock of hair shook around her cheeks. Come on, Rose. She skipped off to the teacher's desk, all smiles. You trailed after her lead. You didn't want to be left behind. Off in the corner on the other side of the room was the teacher's old brown desk. At least the very top of the wood was dark, and the inner part was a lot lighter. You could see that from all tiny cuts and scratches over the surface. It was as far away from the desk as it could be. You guessed that was so she could have these kinds of talks without everyone hearing the whole thing. Miss Murray didn't sit in this cool rolling chair that went behind the desk. She stayed in front and only leaned back against the top edge. She got to talk to you and Tamarack gently, but she didn't have to push her voice across each piece of furniture. She got to talk to you and Tamarack gently because she didn't have to push her voice across a piece of furniture that separated students and teachers. I appreciate you coming to this meeting. I wanted to let you know a little bit about today, what you can expect from your first day. Why? Well, this class has a unique arrangement of the students, but you're the only two I have ever attended this school before. Everyone else is simply returning after a summer break. I'd like to introduce you during the roll call later. I want all the other kids to know who you are. Oh, Tamarack flicked at the buckles of her bag. They made a clicking sound when she hit them up and the thump when they landed back down. Her gaze moved around too. The meeting wasn't exciting anymore. Yeah, having my introduction made me feel special. It was like you were somebody famous. Miss Murray smiled approvingly at how you and Tamarack handled the first assignment. I'll make sure it goes well. The teacher slid her hand across the desk behind her and spread her fingers out wide. In a couple minutes, I'll be telling the class to make their assigned seats. You'll have those spots for the rest of the year. I made a seating plan already, but there is a bit of wiggle room to help you get comfortable if you'd like. Tamarack's hand flew from her bag to her cheek. That sounded like a smack. Does that mean me and Rose can get to sit together because we're neighbors and friends? She was right. You held your breath and balled up your hands into a fist, waiting to know if you'd get to be with Tamarack the whole year or not. A twinkle was in Miss Murray's eyes when she finally said what you were hoping for. You thought she might have paused on purpose to make it more dramatic. Yes, I could put you next to each other. Yoo-hoo! It made Tamarack explode in celebration. She popped up on one foot, putting the other up near her chest, and her arms went in the air. Rose, we're gonna sit together. Yeah. We're gonna get something then. Anything else? You got something then. Anything else? Can I sit close to the front? I can't do that, sorry. The opening desks are further in the back, but I can give you the very front of the back. I'm sure once you're in your seat, you'll get used to it. Soon you won't want to be anywhere else. And if not, you can come talk to me about it. Yes, Miss Murray. It's it's these little faces here when their mouths just make this straight line, and if I catch a glimpse of it, I just put it up here. They just be like, oh. Oh, it's next to us too? Or is he our neighbor? Miss Murray was really a proper lady. What you see, and she didn't have one wrinkle on her fancy suit, but creases suddenly appeared around her eyes and mouth after she heard that. The line spilled out again. No, I'm sorry. I'm glad you're getting along with Autumn, but there were students who wanted to sit next to him last year and didn't get to. It's their turn now. Your eyebrows went up so high, you almost could have lost them. I'm sorry. I just pictured my eyebrows going up and them just flying off my face. That many people wanted to sit by Autumn. It was kind of rude to the teacher, but you had to turn your head right around to look at the guy you'd been talking about. He was leaning over a bunch of desks from before and still talking to those other kids you didn't know. There was a big smile on every face. You tilted your head back where it came, but not all the way. You only moved it enough to be looking to the side instead at Tamarack. Her gaze was directly straight at you too. She gripped the strap of her bag that was weighing against her chest. Since the day you moved in, it had been just the three of you in your cul-de-sac, even if the day was moved in was yesterday. It was the same group, you, Tamarack, and Autumn, neighbors, but you weren't in your neighborhood anymore. On the outside of the street, Tamarack was exactly like you were, and Autumn wasn't. You and her were strangers in Golden Grove now, and you didn't know people and they didn't know you. Autumn had been there forever. And it wasn't only that, you'd probably learned something on your first day of school. Autumn was popular. You didn't matter how many other kids liked Autumn. Autumn was your friend too. He said so himself. That meant something. Not looking at her didn't stop your teacher from trying to talk to you. So, Miss Murray had to wait for you and Tamarack to stop your shared stares. Surprise. And then she pointed across the floor to a couple of desks near the back that were side by side. Those are yours. Tamarack is in the closest one to the wall, and Rose, yours is the one next to that. Window seat, window seat. I'm going to sit at the window seat. Tamarack happily sung herself a simple song about her brand new desk. Besides the roll call, there won't be any surprises. It will be regular, easy first day of class. Thank you for having a chat with me. You can take your seat. Tamarack cheeks inflated, and she pushed a smile between the two balls of air. Okay, let's go, Rose. Bye. The teacher stayed resting up against the desk while you and Tamarack went toward your seats. Tamarack sent quick, excited glances from the desk, then back to you over as you walked toward. She chattered about how it was going to be fun being right next to each other and all things you could do during the year. She beamed so bright, it was like her sparkly golden hair had sunshine that filled the room. You could count on every one of those lucky stars that you didn't get put somewhere else. A clap and a call came from where you just left. Attention students, class is starting. Take your seats. Just like she said she would, Miss Murray beginning the lesson. You were right in front of your assigned group of desks When she said it, the red plastic chair Miss Murray had pointed out before was probably really old, but it was brand new to you. You pulled it out from under the tables and gave sitting in it a try. Hard, cold, and slippery smooth, and the back part wasn't straight. It had bent away from the bottom seat part. I remember chairs like that, but the ones that we had when we were kids were blue and it had like a little hole where it's like the middle part of your back. It felt like leaning against the top of a shiny slide on the playground. If you weren't paying attention, you might fall right off. Maybe that was the point. That was a way to keep kids focused. Tamarack was right there next to your left side, by the wall in the window, just like she wanted. Past her, you could see a rustling treetops outside. Their golden leaves fell all bunched together. They're kind of like Tamarack's puffy hair, but not as sparkly. She plopped her huge, jingling pack on the desk. An actual bag barely fit, and she had bundled up the strap on top so that it wasn't sneaking over into someone else's workspace. The tips of her rain boots were pressed against the dark blue carpet, and she tapped her heels together, and it made the shoes squeak. She was excited for her own little place in the room. Rose, we're gonna be right here for the rest of the year. Yep. I've got the best seat neighbor. Best seat neighbor. Tamarack patted her hands against the thick fabric of her bag and giggled in time with the hits. She stayed pretty busy making a beat. You glanced out of the room, and ahead of you where important boards and teachers were. Autumn was there too, and in the very first row of seats. It wasn't the same spot you'd been in before when you saw him talking to some people, but those other classmates he was sitting with were just as happy to have him there. He was hanging one of his arms across the top edge of his chair and was settled in so snugly he looked like a heavy blanket that had been thrown over it. He moved his head to the side to rest his cheek against his stretched out shoulder. Autumn somehow made himself sit even more relaxed. When that happened, he noticed you behind him. Autumn firmly pressed down his eyebrows and pushed his mouth open a little. He wasn't there when you learned you and Tamarack would be together. He wouldn't be there with you. Now he found out. He only looked that way enough for him to notice that you had noticed his expression. Then your friend, house neighbor, and not seated neighbor sweetly smiled instead. Quay's deep brown eyes gaze darted over to Miss Murray, directing your attention to her. His eyes kept moving right into a dramatic roll that went all the way around. It wasn't hard to imagine him saying teachers, huh? Or something like that. For a minute, you could picture what it would have been like if he had been right next to you. We would have been chatting our heads off. I'm a chatterbox when I'm with my friends. But he couldn't face you forever. It was class time, and you were left staring at a tiny ponytail on the back of his head again. It was okay. You were close enough. Miss Murray patiently waited for people to get settled. Every seat had a kid in it, and finally words were said before the room faded into a short silence. That's when things change. From being just one person in some room to a student who had to listen to a lesson. Hello class, thank you all for being here today. Welcome to your first day of 5th grade. He gave a round of applause. Normally the people sitting and watching were the ones who clapped for the person standing in front, but you guessed Miss Murray did things differently. We're going to have lots of fun this year, and you'll learn a lot too. But also, you're the big kids on campus now, so I'm counting on you to set a good example. Oh, that's right, because they're in 5th grade, and I think that's the last grade for schools, because as you can see, it's been well over several decades since I've been in elementary school. I think it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and this is 6th, 7th, 8th. No. I think it goes up to 8th grade. 8th grade, then 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Yeah. No. I'm tripping. The elementary school is 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. Middle school is 6th, 7th, then 8th. And then high school is 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I'm tripping. Speaking. Oh, somebody else added my stuff. Sorry. I started drawing again, and I updated one of my art websites, and my art is getting some love, so that's exciting. But that's off topic. But also, you're the big kids on campus now, so I'm counting on you to set a good example for the rest of the students here, all right? Yes, Miss Murray. Around half of the class answered her. Yeah, part was in loud cheers and the other were bored grumbles, and the teacher accepted both moves warmly. Thank you. Let's start with roll call then. She crossed past the desk to get a folder off of the little cubbies in the corner. She got that and left her stiff brown jacket behind. The teacher flipped the folder open as she stepped back into the center spot. The cozy sweater made everything about her seem softer. You know the story. I'm going to shout out everyone's name in alphabetical order. First name first. When I call your name, raise your hand and say, "Here, Miss Murray, I am so excited and happy to be in school with you today." Good Lord, that's a lot to say. That time almost the whole class started to chatter. That's where snickers shared between friends, and many outcries of "can't do that," and somebody even booed. Okay, just here will work, and I know you're listening. Her soft voice had a jovial kick, and she had fun with her job. Let's begin. The first day started with an R. It probably would be, oh, good gracious. It probably would be a while before she called you. It was kind of cool. You didn't have to go right away, but you'd have to wait forever either. Miss Murray went through each of the A kids and it kept going from there. Wait, Lynn? Mr. Lynn didn't really raise his hand, and he just popped a thumbs up from his laid-back lean. Here, Miss Murray. That worked, though. And your teacher moved on. Like, I love the character designs in both of their games. Like, it's really nice. And I think I like how... I think you'll understand if you are also somebody that draws. It's like, you know how when you give your characters like a sharp black outline or a black outline, it looks very hard or harsh. I like how the outline for the characters kind of mesh with like their skin or what's actually going on with them. Like her sweater here, the outline here is that, but her skin, the outline is different. I like it when characters look soft like that. And and then you were next. You knew not just because she was on your first name letter, but because her keen eyes were on you before she even said anything. Oh, excuse me. Rose Smith? Dear Miss Murray, I'm excited and happy to be in school with you today. You were the one to get a response from the class that time. Hushed chuckles came from the cluster of students. The teacher gave her approval with a nod, and you sat up tall in your seat after a job well done. Roll call rolled on after your turn. Tamarack? Tamarack's arm shot up in record time. It had already been wound up and ready for the moment. I'm Tamarack, that's me. It wasn't exactly what she was supposed to say, but Tamarack got an A for effort. Miss Murray continued with the last of the names. Once every person in a stiff red seat had turned to say that they were here, Miss Murray gave you and Tamarack a real introduction to the class, the one she had warned you would be coming. It talked about how you just moved to town and what people were supposed to call you and everything. Miss Murray must have asked your mom and Tamarack, Omi and Opa, to know that. You appreciate that she went to all that work. You appreciate that she went to all that work so that the other kids would know. That's when they end up not really teaching us anything except names part of class. Miss Murray took a paper in the folder out of the flap and moved it over to the other side. Please take out your pencils and notebooks now. I'll be going over our plans for the year and what will be expected of all the students. Your ma had packed a fresh notebook with perfectly smooth pages that didn't have a single smudge for you to use. You grabbed something to mark it up if you needed to. It was a gel pen. Oh, I used to write with gel pens all the time, and glitter pens. Because my aunt, when she was alive, God bless her soul, she used to give us glitter pens and gel pens to write with, because I used to write in like a journal as a kid. You gripped it tightly in your right hand. Tamarack leaned over her bag to be as close as possible. Her eyes went squint and set on Miss Murray. She started clicking her shoes together again, even faster than before. Her legs beat any quieter. She might have turned into a one-girl power monitor, and drive the desk around the room. Tamarack was definitely eager to get the information being told, but there wasn't a single piece of paper or pencil anywhere on her desk to take notes. Maybe she only had to listen to know. Over in the other group of tables, Quaid's face was pressed against his right fist that had propped it up against the desk. He was writing slowly, lazy lines with his left hand in a plain spiral notebook. It wasn't his special one. That was your neighbor. And then there was you. You did your best to keep up as much as possible. Yeah, because I was like, if it wasn't about art, I just kind of tuned stuff out. Miss Murray talked about the subject she'd be covering, upcoming holidays and activities, and the way students would get graded, schools, rules, and even more. You weren't sure you'd ever stop having new things to tell everyone about until she cut herself off. She said something about when parent-teacher conferences might happen and paused there. Autumn? Autumn, you snuck a glance away from the front of him. You couldn't help it. He totally lost that droopy pose. Instead, Autumn was hunched over a page, and it was from his special notebook then, and he was scribbling in a hurry. Yeah. The answer was breezy as ever. He didn't try to sound like a student being called out by a teacher. He was polite enough to pull himself up to look at the person speaking to him. Am I going too fast, or is there something else I can do differently? He's been very uncomfortable. Oh, the pencil dropped and clattered on the desk. Both Autumn's hands hovered over the piece of paper, and he stared at it unsure, as if he didn't know if it was suddenly too hot to touch or not. For a minute, Quaid didn't know what to do. He blinked, and then he started to talk again, slowly, thoughtfully. No, it's all right. He leaned fully against his chair again, threaded his fingers together primarily while placing them over the page. From your spot in the back, you could see the edge of an easy smile on the side of his face. And even if you couldn't, you would have been able to hear the smirk in his mouth, in his voice. I wasn't writing down what you were talking about. I'll get to that later. Don't worry over it. Eyes went wide at his bold, oh my God. And a few kids were brave enough themselves to giggle at Quay's comeback. Miss Murray's unusual smile was faint, but it was there. Well, let me know if you've changed your mind. I will, thanks. Oh man, the boldness on that one. Ooh. She stopped the little break there and tapped her folder with the back of her hand to get the students' attention once more. Nothing but normal school stuff happened for the rest of the time. It was a lot of your old classmates in other places. Golden Grove didn't have a secret way to teach kids that the rest of the country had never heard of. You figured it would be that way, but seeing a regular lesson happen made it clear what you've been dealing with. And like all the classes you've had before, that one was over eventually. But before the teacher let anybody get up, Miss Murray went all around the room to drop piles of paper on the few different groups of desks. She explained how they were stacks of homework sheets and everyone had to take one packet with them and bring it back finished tomorrow. Then she said bye to the students and it was okay to leave. Huh. Miss Murray was pretty smart and you liked her a lot. It was going to be good to see her again. And the next day and the day after that. Right next to you, the spell that kept Tamarack totally locked on to Miss Murray's class during broke. The teacher went over to her desk and Tamarack turned to you. She stared at the gel pen in your hand. Actually, it was the opposite. She was looking at the hand that was holding the gel pen. I used my right hand too. We're the same again. Yeah, same hands. All right. This is my baby, Haru. Okay. Oh, I guess she's gonna sit with them. And then Tamarack wasn't talking about hands anymore. That was finished according to her. This time, it really was gel pen itself that had her attention. She poked it with her finger. I like your gel pen. Made you smile. Oh. Meow. Getting a cameo by one of my kitties. Oh, okay, baby. Okay, baby. It was your best gel pen that you brought special for the first day of school, and someone noticed it. She could be really nice. Ma'am, Miss Ladies, it didn't know. Tamarack started to hum and got to work unbuckling the two front straps of her bag. Yes, ma'am. Hey, oh, okay. Hello. Hello to you too. Hello to you too. You're such a good listener, you have to write anything down. The clap she had been tugging clicked open satisfyingly. Thanks. Opa says that too. She flipped the top flap over and in went one of the homework packets, closing it all back up, followed right after. That was all she had to put away, because she hadn't taken anything out of the bag for the whole class. She put the bag closer to her and wiggled herself under the strap. Okay, Miss Ma'am. Miss Ma'am. Miss Ma'am. We'll sit somewhere, sit right here. Sit right here. She pulled the bag closer to her and wiggled herself under the strap. There was only one thing left to do. She was set. Bam! My God. Hold on, y'all. This lady, you can't keep rubbing on my mic like that. My glasses. She pulled her bag closer to her and wiggled herself under the strap. There was only one thing left to do before she was set. Tamarack bounced out of her chair. The heavy bag settled across her shoulder with a rattle. Come on, Rose. She made a dash to the coat rack with her pink scarf, where her pink scarf was waiting. Before leaving, you remember to take the homework packet and tuck it away in your inner pocket of your bag. Nothing else was forgotten either. You put all of your things back. Where had you taken them from? All right, Mommy. You even brushed off the stray pencil shavings and eraser bits that had gotten onto your side thanks to the other kids at the group table. The desk was all nice and clean when you finished, but as soon as you got up to leave, you couldn't because someone called for you. Hey, Rose. I guess you did. I don't know what you want to do today. You checked behind you, and there was Quay. Coming from the front of the class, he was waving his piece of tan brown lined paper in his hand. Did you drop a paper again? Rose, you are funny, but you are about to feel silly. But it's good you're here. I got stuff to say. Though I guess I could have told you even if you had gone. You live in the same neighborhood. Sound like even Quay struggled to wrap his head around the idea that the two of you were strangers about a day ago, and now were people who were going to be seeing each other all the time. There was a soft crinkle as Autumn tapped the edge of his special paper against his right palm and again. You stopped being able to hear it with Quay started to ramble, though he kept doing it. Okay, so this paper, here's what happened. I was talking to my mom and dad about it yesterday, back when it was still yesterday, and I realized something. He flapped both of his arms out wide. Autumn was excited, as blown away as he must have been when he first learned the things he was going to try to explain. Oh my God. He's just cuddly today. He flipped both his arms out wide. Autumn was acting as blown away as he must have been when he first learned the things he was trying to explain. Tamarack finding my paper and sending it to you wasn't just some unexplainable thing that we wondered about. It was sucky. Was what? Yes. With drama and emotion, Quay whipped his arms up and down in a rapid gesture. He needed you to feel what he was feeling, which turned out to be what he imagined you had been feeling before. You've got a paper airplane with a message that had your name and everything. That's exciting. It had to mean something. But then it wasn't a message for you. It was an accident. Whoa. That was the biggest letdown I could ever imagine. He had been flying the page around like it was another paper airplane. He finally let it rest for a second when his arms dropped. All his bluster became on one side. If you were going to get a note from me, it should have been something to say to you. That's what I thought of when I thought more about it. Oh, now I get it. Huh? That wasn't the end of the story, though. It was a prologue. Autumn sprung back into action and raised his left arm with the page pressed between his thumbs and the rest of his outstretched fingers. And so I've got something for you. He shook the paper in his hands, grinning cheekily. There was no way not to get what he meant and what was supposed to be for you. You wrote me a note? Got cat hair all over me. That's right. Autumn switched his paper one more time to bring it down low enough for you to take. You excitedly seized the note from his hand. The page in your fingers was exactly like what you remember from the plain one, somehow tougher, softer than the regular paper, in the same light brown color. But when you read the message, the words scribbled on it were all different than the first time. Welcome to the neighborhood, from Quinlan this time, actually. That was written in big clear letters, stars, and a smiley face crowded with all any plain spots. Ugh. That was what was written in big clear letters, stars, and a smiley face crowded out any plain spots the words hadn't covered. It was careful work, and the little extra line on the Q was a fancy curve, and he didn't even draw the stars from corner to corner. There weren't lines through the middle of them. The difference between the note Quay wanted somebody to see and the one you got by accident was huge. Some blurry thing came up past the top edge of the paper. You blinked, distracted, then squinted over the page to figure out what was going on in the room. It was Quay, high on his tiptoes. He was watching you read the note, smirking, hands tucked behind his back, and all around very pleased with himself. It's pretty good, huh? You're really thoughtful, Autumn. Quay was already standing as tall as he could, but what you said still made him grow even bigger and his chest puff up. The lopsided smile filled out, flattered, his arms tensed around him like a heart squeezed hard inside a chest. I do think a lot, but only about stuff that's worth thinking over. You gave one more glance at the message Quay had written for you. It was still there, welcoming you to your neighborhood every time you saw it. When you looked at Quay himself again, he finally dropped his feet and hands back to where they were normally. When you looked at Quay himself again, he finally dropped his feet and hands back to where they normally were. He waited there to see if you were going to do anything else. Is this what you were writing down in class? Nope. I came up with that way before. I had other stuff I needed to write down. What was it really? I can't tell you about all of it, but one thing is that I was putting down where everybody's seats were. I had to write it when I could see people sitting around in their spots. Wade talked fast and firm while jabbing the tip of his finger into his left palm as fervently. He was good at lecturing for someone who was only in the 5th grade. I was supposed to do that after class when everyone was gone. Miss Murray? No, I have a reason for doing things. Oh, that makes sense. Good. Even though Quay was the last one talking, he abruptly sliced a hand through the air to get what was the conversation out of the way and having it be about something else. But wait, before I forget, I gotta tell you, I'm impressed, Rose. The first day's gotta be the hardest when you're new, and you didn't even break a sweat in class. His hands were on his hips in a commanding pose as he talked energetically. Nothing was held back. You didn't feel smaller next to his bright presence, and you didn't think that's what he was trying to do. Quay was starting to know you better, and it was making him look differently to you, and you could handle it. Thanks. I didn't do anything, it was you. He closed his eyes and snickered. While thinking of some kind of thought, he stretched and curled his fingers to fill out the way his gloves were fitting. Quay pinched the edge of it to straighten them out better. Anyway, you and Timrek are in the back next to each other, huh? Miss Murray is smart, just sometimes too smart for me. The teacher said a bunch of people wanted to sit by you. With a huge smile, Quay swung his arms open wide. Yeah, of course they did. He acted like it was obvious and kind of was. You already knew, and he was popular. All right, guys, I'm actually going to go ahead and cut it here. Thank you for joining me on this Mushy Monday. I hope that you like and subscribe and push that notification bell so I can bring you more videos. Again, liking, interacting with my content helps me and my family, and it also helps me continue to bring you guys more content. But without further ado, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.